Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile update for you guys today. This time's on Traptrix. Now Traptrix is really fun. Funny enough, it's actually really strong this format considering that it is a trap-based deck. And yeah, the deck just has some really cool combos that you can pull off. Now Traptrix is prone to certain weaknesses, like cards like that basically book your monsters, like Eclipse or Book of Moon. And of course, like Dark Ruler No More really hurt the strategy too, because like the deck doesn't have like any way to really protect themselves from spells. But overall, like as long as you know how to play around stuff like that, you should be fine. And also weak to banishment too, so cards like evenly matched. Again, like as long as you know like what to play, what to side in for those kind of problems, you should be just fine. But anyway, I figured I'd share with you guys what I came up with this time around. And yeah, let's go and get started. So the main deck is still 40 cards. I'm playing 3 copies of Traptrix Myrmilio. Easily one of your best starters, searches out any whole normal trap card. Also has a mandatory special summoning effect where you get to target one spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. So as long as you know like ways to like basically bring them back, you can always just like, yeah, keep popping off their back row. That way your opponent just doesn't get like the upper hand against you, you know? Next, 3 copies of Traptrix Mantis, one of your secondary starters. If this card is normal summon, you can add 1 Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. Also, it has an effect where a quick effect, you can target 1 set spell or trap you control, return that target to the hand, and then set 1 spell or trap from your hand. So like, let's say your opponent tries to Cosmic Cyclone one of your cards, you can just target that set card and then just bounce it back to your hand and then reset it again. So like, Mantis does have some really good utility. And our last main normal summon, 3 copies of Traptrix Pudica. This basically gets you access to the field spell, but also has a special summoning effect where you can target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls, banish it. Also, during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon 1 of their banished monsters. Now, that might seem like risky. Well, that might sound risky on paper, but this is where cards like the Trap Hole cards come into play. So, like, as soon as they summon it right back, you can basically just pop that card or just book it, whatever you want to do with it. And yeah, it's like, it's crazy. So, yeah, Pudica is just really strong. Next, 2 copies of Dionea. You're mostly going to use it for the special summoning effect off of Sarah. But yeah, when it's special summon, you can target 1 whole normal trap in your graveyard, set that target, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn if it's still on the field. But one thing I do like about Dionea is that it also has a Monster Reborn effect on normal summon, so like it can come up sometimes. So yeah, like Dionea is pretty good. And the last of our Traptrix lineup, 2 copies of Traptrix Arachnacampa. Arachnacampa is just really good because she does protect your back row once from destruction effects. But keep in mind, if you do use her effect to special summon herself, it does lock you into insect and plant type monsters from the extra deck. Well, actually, for the rest of the turn in general. So, oh, actually, yeah, from the extra deck. So, like, if you do need to go to like certain other rank 4s, make sure you do them first before you use Arachnacampus effect. Next, 3 copies of Parallel Exceed, another great combo piece for the deck, simply because you do have several rank 4s, so Parallel Exceed is just great for that way. So, like, if you have this in your opening hand and you go into Sarah, you basically are off to the races just like that. To round up our monsters, running 3 copies of Ash Blossom, probably one of the best hand traps in the format. And I do run in Perm, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, just figured I'd share with that. For my spells, not running too many spells in this deck, but I actually decided to cut Pot of Prosperity entirely simply because you kind of can't really afford to play Prosperity in this deck. I know like in other builds, some people still like to run it, but the most you're going to be able to banish is 3. And sometimes like there's always going to be like that 1 card I do need, so that's why I decided to just cut it. So instead I decided to go more of a budget route, playing 3 copies of Trap Tantalizing Tune. Discard 1 level 4 insect or plant monster or a normal trap card, draw 2 cards. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 of your banished level 4 insect, plant, or normal traps and place it to the bottom of the deck. So it's a good way to kind of like recycle your resources. And the fact that, yeah, just, you know, discards, like in case you brick with like too many normal summons, you can just like discard them, draw 2 cards. Usually what I like to do is bait out my opponent's Ash, because usually what they're going to Ash is either Sarah or try to effect failure it or whatever, and just like, yeah, they just don't want that Sarah to go off. But if you do have this, I usually like to play it later in the turn just to kind of like fix up my hand and just keep going, you know, see what else I can do. Next up, 2 copies of Trap Garden. I know some people like to run this at 1, but I personally like to have the second one in case of if I lose the first one, because like losing it kind of hurts, but I like it because it does give you the additional normal summon. Also has a a protection effect from battle. So the first time each of your insect or plant monsters you control would be destroyed by battle, they are not destroyed. And you can banish one monster you control, special summon one Traptrix monster from your hand or your graveyard, and yeah, like it's got some really good utility. And yeah, that rounds up all our spells. Now for the trap cards, it's a pretty standard lineup. Obviously, you're going to be playing 3 copies of Traptrix Holatea. This is easily the best one in the entire deck. Discard 1 normal trap to activate it on the turn it's set. It becomes a trap monster, and yeah, that's basically all it is. It also has a graveyard effect, which some people tend to overlook. But you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So a good way to bring back your Pudicea or your Myrmelio if you just need a pop-up back row. And of course, you can only use 1 Traptrix Holatea effect per turn and only once that turn. So it's not too broken, of course, but still pretty good. Next, 2 copies of Floodgate Trap Hole, probably one of the better ones too, because like it just books anything and it's permanent too. So a great way to deal with Kashtira. Also got Traptrix Trap Hole of Nightmare, also strong against Kashtira, funny enough, but any deck that does a lot of special summoning, so yeah. 2 Gravediggers, just a way to play around Nibiru or just to deal with like hand effects, like against the Bestial package. Like some people do like to run Bestials just for the purposes of their own deck. So good way to play around those. And yeah, and also it's one of your best. It's probably the best target for your Rafflesia. So why not, right? And of course, 1 time space trap hole. If your opponent special summons a monster from hand or your extra deck, you can shuffle that monster back into the deck. And then if you do, you lose 1,000 life points for each return monster, but that's really not that much of a problem, honestly, so yeah. And then to round up our trap lineup, I'm running 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, you know, just a generically good card. And finally, 3 copies of Evenly Matched, just in case if I end up going second on the dice roll, I can at least be ready to just break my opponent's board because, you know, Evenly Matched is just crazy good. So why not, right? All right, so now for the extra deck. Extra deck, changed it up quite a bit, actually, since the last time I presented this deck. But for sure, still playing 3 copies of Sarah. Sarah is easily your best extra deck monster. You definitely want to make sure this gets out and resolve her effects. That way you get some additional value. 1 Adipus. It does give your Traptrix monsters a big power boost, especially because, you know, Traptrix themselves don't have, like, very high attack points, so this is just a great card to do it. And it's also an impermanence on legs, so really strong. I actually decided to keep Alsa in because Alsa is just really strong right now, especially against the mirror match. But it is pretty strong against Kashtira, funny enough, because Fenrir is actually an earth monster. So you can take your opponent's Fenrir and just use it against them. So yeah, Alsa just has a lot of utility. Plus, if you brick, and shout outs to my friend Manny for pointing this out. If you bricked out, you can actually bring this out, and if your opponent can't really like find an effective way of not outing this card without destroying it, then you basically get to search out one of your stars and still not, you know, just kick off for the following turn. So like Alsa just provides follow-up plays. So yeah, it's really strong. Next, I am playing the Aromaseraphy Jasmine, and I do have the cards to support this. But generally what you do with this card is like you tribute 1 monster this card points to, special summon a plant monster from your deck in defense mode. And then of course, that's generally all you're going to use it for. But the whole point of this is like it enables the Rika Queen Strina. If you mainly going to tribute this card out, that way you can trigger her effect to special summon herself back, and then summon out a rank 5 or higher plant monster, in which case you're going to go into the Sacred Tree Beast. It's going to be your main Omni Negate, and honestly this combo is so good. And if you guys want to see like a combo video, like how to perform this, I'll show you guys on a different video, I promise. But moving on. The only other of the Traptrix monsters that I'm running at least at 2 is Traptrix Penguicula. I like it because she does enable you some additional value. It's a searcher. Plus the fact that it's kind of hard to out. So like whenever your opponent sends a monster to the graveyard, you basically get to add that monster as material to this card, and it becomes immune to the activated effects of other monsters with the same type as this card's material. So yeah, Penguicula is kind of annoying. For the 1-ofs, 1 Rafflesia. I used to play this at 2, but I opted to just 1 now because honestly, Rafflesia is only good when you're going first, and plus it's just to help you out nib, and that's the whole reason behind it. So like once Rafflesia does her job, you're pretty much set to go. 1 Allomeris. I know some people don't like it, but I personally love it because like it is just really good for the late game, especially if you're like playing a really grindy matchup. So yeah, Allomeris does provide some value. And then from here on out, I decided to play Time Thief Redoer, easily the best rank 4 for the deck. Abyss Dweller and Baguska, both are really good game enders. Abyss Dweller is really strong against the branded matchup, and Baguska is just generically good against anything because it is a skill drain. So yeah, that's the whole reason behind it. But and if you notice, I'm not running Zeus. Zeus just never comes up, so I decided to cut it entirely, and yeah, that's all there is to it. So yeah, it's just I decided to just play like a diversity of toolbox cards, and that's the whole reason I decided to play it this way. All right, now moving on to the side deck. Side deck's pretty self-explanatory, you know, 3 Lancia. Lancia is just a good way to dodge evenly match, but it also has some pretty good matchup against the cash matchup because they can't banish your cards whatsoever. Funny enough, it's strong against Dark World. I actually mentioned this in my last video because, like, if they start to spam out, if the second they bring out that field spell, they're going to want to spam it, so you cannot let that happen. Next, 3 copies of Raigeki. Raigeki is just generically good. It's better than Lightning Storm, in my opinion, because, like, Lightning Storm is a hard once per turn, where Raigeki is not. So, like, if one gets negated, you can just play another one. If they negate that one too, then and then you have a card like Evenly Match, you basically still get to blow out the entire board, and they just wasted all their disruptions. 3 Book of Moon, just like only because like I don't want to like play Book of Eclipse because it can easily be ashed, and sometimes having like Book of Moon is just significantly better. Because like against the right matchup, like if they have no follow-up after the Book of Moon, then they're basically stuck. So that's the whole reason why I decided to play that. 3 Skill Drain. My Xyz monsters and my Link monsters, the Traptrix ones I mean, are immune to traps, so like Skill Drain just doesn't do anything to me, but it's just strong against a lot of matchups. And another good card to deal with like board breakers, especially like in the form of spells. I am playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Another good way to dodge evenly matched, funny enough. So like, yeah, Solemn Judgment is just a good card, but I only play it if I know for a fact I'm going to end up going first game 3. So like, yeah, it's like one of those cards like you have to consider because like people like to side in an evening match or just like back removal. So Solemn Judgment's one of those cards to play, and it also kind of deals with Denko Sega for any deck that actually likes to side it out. So yeah, I just like to be prepared for that. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.